When one night changes everything. Port Charles had seen its share of long nights, but this one felt different. Rain tapped against the windows of the floating rib, blurring the city lights into streaks of color. Inside, the bar buzzed softly, low music, clinking glasses, half-finished conversations. Britt Westbourne sat alone at the counter, staring into her drink as if it might answer questions she had been avoiding for years. She laughed suddenly, too loud, too sharp. The bartender hesitated. "You okay, Britt?" "Oh, I'm fantastic," Britt replied, lifting her glass. "Just celebrating how great secrets are." That should have been a warning. A familiar face slid onto the stool beside her, someone who knew Britt well enough to recognize when she was pretending, someone who had heard enough over the years to sense danger in her tone. "You've had enough," the person said, gently. Britt smirked. "Funny thing about enough, it's always too late when you realize it." She leaned closer, voice lowering, eyes unfocused but sharp with emotion. "You know what's worse than lying?" Britt whispered. "Telling the truth when it doesn't matter anymore." The words spilled faster after that, fragmented, emotional, raw. Britt spoke about a night she was never supposed to remember clearly, a conversation she overheard by accident, a choice someone else made that changed more than one life. Her voice cracked. "I wasn't supposed to know," she said, "but I did, and I kept quiet because it was easier." The listener froze. "Britt, what are you saying?" Britt laughed again, this time bitter. "I'm saying everything everyone believes is wrong." Nearby, a couple of patrons had stopped pretending not to listen. Phones were subtly lowered, eyes widened. Britt didn't notice, or maybe she didn't care. "I watched them cover it up," she said. "I watched them protect each other, and now everyone's paying for it." She reached for her drink, hands shaking. "I should have spoken up sooner." The bartender quietly signaled for help, but the damage was already done. By morning, the story would spread, and by sunrise, Port Charles would never be the same. Across town, Jason Morgan moved through the fog with purpose. He hadn't slept. He hadn't stopped thinking. Something didn't add up. A missed call, a half-finished message, a location ping that made no sense unless someone wanted to be found or wanted to disappear. Jason followed instinct. It led him to a quiet, isolated property outside the city limits, the kind of place you go when you don't want questions. He approached cautiously. The door was unlocked. Inside, the lights were low. Two figures sat at the table, tension thick enough to cut. Jason stepped forward. Anna looked up first, then Sam. Their reactions told him everything. Relief, fear, guilt. "All this time," Jason said quietly, "you were right here." Sam stood slowly. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." Anna exhaled sharply. "We were trying to prevent something worse." Jason didn't raise his voice. That made it harder. "You disappeared," Jason said. "People were searching. Lies were told." Anna met his eyes. "Because the truth would have destroyed more than it saved." Jason clenched his jaw. "You don't get to decide that alone." Sam's voice trembled. "Jason, Britt knows." The room went silent. "What does Britt know?" Jason asked. Anna looked away. "Enough," she admitted. "Enough to unravel everything." Back at the hospital, Britt woke up with a pounding head and a creeping sense of dread. She remembered everything. The words, the looks, the silence after she spoke. "Oh no," Britt muttered, sitting up. Her phone buzzed relentlessly. Missed calls, messages, rumors already forming. She had opened a door she couldn't close. When Jason walked in, her heart dropped. "You said something last night," Jason said calmly. "I need to know if it was true." Britt swallowed hard. "For once, I wish it wasn't."
Britt explained what she knew, carefully, painfully, how she pieced together fragments over time, how Anna and Sam weren't villains, but weren't innocent either. A decision made under pressure, a lie told for protection, a chain reaction no one predicted. Jason listened without interrupting. When she finished, he stood quietly for a long moment. "This doesn't stay buried," he said finally. Britt nodded. "I know. That's why I drank." News traveled fast. Questions exploded. Who knew what and when? Who was protected? Who pays the price? Some defended Anna and Sam, saying they did what they had to do. Others felt betrayed. Lines were drawn overnight. Friendships strained. Trust cracked. Old wounds reopened. And Britt found herself at the center. No longer the keeper of secrets, but the catalyst of truth. Jason confronted Anna and Sam again, not in anger, but resolve.
He said, "Out in the open." Anna nodded slowly. "Then we face the consequences." Sam's eyes filled with tears. "Whatever they are." Jason turned away, already planning the next move. Control wasn't about silence anymore. It was about accountability. Late that night, Britt stood alone on the hospital balcony, city lights flickering below. She exhaled, feeling lighter and terrified. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You weren't supposed to remember. Now everyone will pay." Britt's breath caught. She realized then her drunken truth wasn't the end. It was the beginning, because in Port Charles, the truth never comes without a cost. What Britt had revealed the night before didn't stay confined to whispered conversations or private calls. Pieces of it leaked, carefully distorted, emotionally charged, and impossible to control. Everyone had a version of the truth, but no one had the whole story, and that made things dangerous. Britt hadn't left the hospital since dawn. She moved through the halls on autopilot, pretending to be fine while her nerves burned beneath the surface. Every glance felt loaded. Every whisper felt personal. She replayed the message on her phone again and again. "You weren't supposed to remember." That wasn't a threat from the past. It was a warning from the present. Someone was watching. Someone who believed Britt's memory was the real problem. Jason didn't sleep. He sat in his apartment, reviewing timelines, locations, decisions that never quite made sense. Britt's words echoed in his head, not the drunken tone, but the clarity underneath it. This wasn't just about Anna and Sam making a hard call. Someone else had been involved. Someone who benefited from silence. When Jason noticed a gap in the records, a transfer that shouldn't exist, he knew Britt hadn't stumbled into the truth by accident. She'd been allowed to remember. Anna felt the shift immediately. Doors that were once open hesitated. Conversations ended abruptly when she entered a room. People who trusted her were suddenly careful. She didn't blame them. She blamed herself. What she and Sam had done wasn't malicious, but it wasn't clean either. And now that Britt had spoken, the narrative was no longer theirs to control. "There's more coming," Anna admitted quietly to Sam. "I can feel it." Sam nodded. "So can I." Jason confronted Sam again, this time without patience. "You knew someone else was involved," he said flatly. Sam's eyes filled, but she didn't deny it. "I suspected." "That wasn't enough to stop you?" Sam's voice broke. "We thought if we handled it quietly, no one else would get hurt." Jason looked away. "That's never how it works." For the first time in years, there was distance between them, real distance, built on broken assumptions. Late that afternoon, Britt found someone waiting in her office. Not hostile, not familiar, just calm. "You talk when you drink. That's risky."
Britt's pulse spiked. "Who are you?" "Someone who cleaned up a mess you weren't meant to see." The visitor didn't threaten her, didn't raise their voice. That scared her more. "You don't want to be involved, so forget what you remembered." Britt straightened. "I already tried that. It didn't work." The visitor smiled faintly. "Then you'll force our hand." They left without another word. When Britt told Jason what happened, his reaction was immediate. "You're not staying alone," he said. "I don't need a guard," Britt protested. "This isn't about you anymore. It's about what you know." Reluctantly, Britt agreed, and somewhere unseen, someone adjusted their plans. As pressure mounted, old grudges resurfaced. People began questioning every past event, every unexplained absence, every convenient excuse. Who lied? Who protected whom? Who paid the price? Port Charles turned inward, eating itself alive with suspicion. And in the chaos, the real threat moved freely. Jason uncovered the final piece late that night, a hidden connection linking the mysterious visitor to a decision made years ago, long before Britt overheard anything. This wasn't damage control, it was orchestration. Someone had shaped events quietly, counting on people like Anna and Sam to make difficult choices and take the blame. Jason realized the truth too late. Britt wasn't the liability. She was the distraction. At a secluded location outside the city, the same unknown figure made a call. "She's protected," they said calmly. A voice on the other end responded cold and amused. "Good. Let them focus on her." The call ended. Back in Port Charles, Britt stared out the window, uneasy, unaware that the real danger had just shifted away from her and toward someone Jason would never expect.